Hi and welcome to the Malat Cookery channel. So today I'm going to attempt to make Bourbon Biscuits. Okay, so there's a little bit of a story behind this. We're in, I think, the first week of October 2021. There are quite a few shortages regarding food in the shops. And also there's a petrol crisis going on when ironically there's more than enough fuel to go around, just people's stupidity. Now I was in the shops today and I couldn't believe that one particular shop I went in, they had no Bourbon Biscuits at all on the shelf. Now I can do without fuel, you know, we can walk, I've got a bike, public transport. I definitely can't do without my weekly fix of Bourbon Biscuits. So I thought, well, let's have a go at trying to make them. I've had a look at 2 or 3 videos on the internet, especially on YouTube. I kind of took the best bits from each video, or what I think are the best bits from each video. So this isn't a how-to video, it's more of a me trying a Bourbon Biscuit recipe for the first time. As usual, a full list of ingredients will be given at the end of the video, so let's have a look at those ingredients now and anything else we're going to need for today. So the ingredients for this recipe, and I'm going to separate the ingredients into 2 lots, one being the biscuit, the other one being the filling. So for the biscuit, I've got 200 grams of plain or all-purpose flour, 70 grams of unsalted butter, which I'm going to get to room temperature. I've got 100 grams of caster sugar. Going to be using 4 tablespoons of cocoa powder, teaspoon of salt, and roughly 3 tablespoons of milk, but we'll have to assess it once we've mixed everything else together. So for the filling, I've got 30 grams of unsalted butter. Again, I'll get that to room temperature. 2 teaspoons of cocoa powder, 50 grams of icing sugar, and 1 tablespoon of milk. So the first thing we're going to do is to make the biscuit mixture. So in a large bowl I've got the softened butter and the caster sugar, and we're just going to do what's called creaming these together. So I'm going to mix these together with an electric hand whisk until it becomes a nice smooth mixture and slightly pale in colour. Okay, so that's our sugar and butter creamed together. So I've added the cocoa powder and the salt, and now I'm just going to fold everything in together with the flour. So once we've got it to this stage, once I start adding the milk, a little bit at a time, you don't need a lot of fluid in this mixture. And the end result, we're trying to get just a nice firm dough. So a little bit of the milk in and start mixing in with your hand. And as you're mixing, just squeeze the mixture to see if it holds together. And if not, just add a tiny bit more milk. So we've got 3 tablespoons of milk. We might need a little bit more, we might need a little bit less. Okay, so that's our dough ready. It actually needed 5 tablespoons of milk. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to roll this dough out into a 2 to 3 millimeter thick slab. Right, so I've got a board ready to roll our dough out, and I've made sure that this board will actually fit into our freezer, because once we've rolled the dough out to a 2 to 3 millimeter slab, the next thing to do is we want to chill it, and the quickest way to do that is just to put it in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes. So we're not going to use flour on the board. because that will discolour the dough. So what I'm going to do is use some of the cocoa powder just to lightly dust this board, and that way the dough hopefully won't stick. So I'm going to take our dough and just shape it in your hands to begin with. Lightly dust it on the top. And then with a rolling pin, just start to roll this dough out. Okay, so once I've rolled out the dough, and I've just trimmed off a little bit from the edge because obviously it was going over the board. Anything you trim off, you can roll out again and create more biscuit with that. So I'm just taking a tray and I'm just going to start to cut the shape for the biscuits. So I've cut the first lot out, not very even, but it'll do. This was the waste around the edge, so I'm going to roll this out, move these to one side, roll this out, and just carry on that process until all of the dough has been used up. So before we put these in the freezer for 10 minutes, just take a toothpick or cocktail stick, and with the blunt side, or the blunt end, I'm just going to make 8 holes in 2 rows. Just like that. Got to carry on and make sure that all of them are done. Okay, so into the freezer now for about 10 minutes. If you haven't got any room in your freezer, in the fridge for about half an hour, just make sure it's covered with some cling film or food wrap. So now those biscuit shapes are chilling in either the freezer or the fridge. It's a good opportunity to make up the filling. So I've got our softened butter, cocoa powder, add our icing sugar, and then we just want to mix this in and then add the milk towards the end. And then it's a good idea to put the oven on to preheat 180 degrees centigrade. Okay, so that's our filling mixed. So a good tip here is to make sure that that butter is nice and soft before you start to mix it together. Otherwise you'll end up with small lumps of butter in the mix. So I'm just going to cover this with cling film or food wrap, just put it to one side while we bake the biscuit itself. So after we've chilled the biscuit shapes, I've buttered an oven-proof tray, placed the biscuit shapes in the tray with some space around each one. Just going to put over some granulated sugar. Crystallized sugar would be better, that would be more in keeping with the Bourbon biscuits, but I don't have any. So just a thin dressing of granulated sugar will do for me. So the oven's up to temperature now, preheated to 170 degrees centigrade. These are going in the middle of the oven for about 12 minutes. Okay, so these are our biscuits which have been baked. I'm now going to transfer these onto a wire rack to cool down completely. So once the biscuits are cold, next thing to do is to add the filling. And the only good thing really about not taking that much care in cutting the dough into biscuit shapes is we now get to play a mix and match game. So I just need to find two. I will be doing this again, by the way, we'll be doing this recipe again, and I will take a lot more care over how I cut them, but find two similar size, put these to one side. So turn one of them upside down. This is the one we're going to be filling. I've got a disposable piping bag, and we just want to put some of our filling in there. Place the other one on top. Just push that down gently so it comes to the edge. And now I'm just going to chill these in the fridge, and then the family can help themselves. So obviously we now carry on until we've done all of the Bourbon biscuits. So there you go, homemade Bourbon biscuits. The first time I've ever tried it. I would definitely change a few things. One is I'd be a lot more accurate with the cutting of the actual biscuit itself, even though it was fun to try and mix and match and pair up two pieces of biscuit together of similar sizes. The second thing is the filling. I think that needs a little bit of work. Now I would normally cream, butter and sugar together. The particular recipe I looked at on the internet, it was just a case of mixing it together. Don't think that's the way forward. I'd definitely cream the sugar and butter together in the future. And I think I'd experiment a little bit with that filling just to make it a little bit more solid, so the biscuits could be eaten not necessarily straight from the fridge. Apart from that, delicious, tastes absolutely fantastic. Just again, just a little bit more work, but that's what happens when you try a recipe for the first time. Please subscribe to the channel, and as usual, if you've enjoyed this particular video, hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.